The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
This week's episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast is dedicated to your crown. The title of today's episode of 15 Minutes of Fab is Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow, How to Maintain Hair Health. I'm sure you've heard of the crown chakra. In Sanskrit, it's also known as Sahasrara. So it's also the seventh chakra that is usually associated with being kind of, above your head type of thing. But in addition to its spiritual meaning of, connection, I believe that your hair and the health of your scalp contribute to the balance of your crown chakra. Now, I know this sounds a little off, like how can something spiritual be related to something that sits on top of the thing that's supposed to represent the spirituality and connection? Hear me out. This episode of 15 Minutes of Fab provides an update on a topic we have discussed in the past on a previous episode, and now just going to add a little bit more to our knowledge of hair radiance and scalp health. Our hair sends messages about more than you think. It may be that it non-verbally expresses our identity, confidence, culture, personality, and emotional and physical well-being. Yes, we are generally born with hair follicles, and hair grows throughout most of our life for most people. Hair grows in a cycle, which we've discussed before, with each phase being marked by a specific activity. So the growth phase is called anagen, and that lasts about 2 to 7 years. Then there's a transition phase called catagen, and that lasts about a few weeks. This is followed by a resting phase. After all that work, the follicles have to rest, and that's called telogen. That takes about 3 months. And finally, there's a shedding phase where the old hair just sheds or is released, and that's called exogen. So first 2 to 7 years, then a few weeks, then 3 months, and then the hair sheds. And each hair goes through this cyclical process. While we were born with innocent follicles, so to speak, there are a number of factors that affect how and how long our hair will grow. And many of these factors also contribute to whether we keep the hair we do have. And as a result, hair loss may be influenced or affected by a number of factors, including, but certainly not limited to, genetics, hormonal shifts, organ functions, particularly the thyroid, stress, nutrition, especially low iron, inadequate protein, inadequate vitamins and mineral deficiencies, certain hair practices such as frequent heat styling, tight hairstyles, lots of chemical treatments, etc., health conditions, whether it's autoimmune diseases, infections, chronic illness, and also certain medications and drug use can definitely contribute to the health of your hair and to lack thereof. Nevertheless, hair loss is rarely from one single cause. Certainly one cause could be the more prominent or the more dramatic, but typically hair shedding may be the result of a combination of factors. So it's important to pay attention to what's going on with yourself, within your body, outside of your body, your environment, everything. So how do we keep the hair that we do have, and how do we keep it radiant? As many things, especially from my perspective, it's an inside job, and it begins from within. So I have researched the interweb as well as my, adding my experience in my practice with managing hair loss. And I've put together for you the top 10 tips to help to keep your hair radiant and your scalp healthy from within. Number 1, eat a balanced diet. Hair is made primarily of keratin, which is a protein, and healthy hair begins with a healthy scalp. So a diet that is rich in protein is important. Some foods and ingredients that support healthy hair include, but again, are certainly not limited to protein-rich foods such as eggs, lentils, salmon, tofu, iron-rich foods such as leafy greens, beans, and lean meats, omega-3 fatty acids found in chia seeds, walnuts, and oily fish, zinc, an ingredient found in pumpkin seeds, oats, and chickpeas, and vitamin C from citrus, berries, peppers, and other sources. The second tip is to protect your hair from the sun, because UV rays may damage the hair as well as the skin. The third tip, avoid excess pollution. Now, a number of lifestyle factors also affect the hair of our health. Number 4, manage stress, especially if it is chronic and unmitigated, because chronic and unmitigated stress can certainly disrupt the hair cycle and lead to a longer shedding phase than normal. Another tip, undisrupted, restful sleep is critical to hair health, as it is to so many things. Number 6, please don't smoke. Smoking reduces blood flow to the scalp, and that can certainly affect whether or not you keep your hair or it sheds. Number 8, avoid product buildup. In our eagerness to maintain healthy hair, we may actually overdo it by putting on too many hair products and not thoroughly rinsing them out. So don't keep piling it on. I believe I skipped number 7. Number 7 was consider scalp massage to improve circulation to the scalp. Number 8, avoid product buildup. Don't pile it on. Number 9, see a doctor. If you are having such difficulty with maintaining healthy hair and radiant hair and it's falling out more so than usual, typically it's said that about 100 to 200 hairs may actually drop or shed every single day. If you think it's more than that and it just keeps clumping up, please see a professional. What may be frustrating is that even if you follow all of these best practices, you may not be able to prevent hair loss. What may, in fact, crack the code is getting to the root cause. I know that sounds like a pun, but it's true. Getting to the root cause. This is where medical consultation may be beneficial to help screen for an underlying condition and to uncover the source of the hair loss. If your doctor recommends supplements to supplement your healthy diet, use them appropriately and try not to add too many products to your regimen. So don't pile on topical products, the creams, the lotions, the potions, the shampoos, the conditioners, the detanglers, the serums, the hair loss, treatments, and certainly do not pile on or take too many oral supplements. It can be a lot and very expensive. Finally, the 10th tip, use proper hair self-care. Be gentle on your hair, get regular trims, and maybe use a hair mask, deep conditioner, or an oil treatment once or twice a week or every other week. So those are my top 10 tips. Now, getting back to how I started this podcast in the first place, your hair is symbolic of your crown chakra and how you connect to your higher self. I'll close this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab with an AI quote that I found on the web. Quote, hair is symbolically and energetically connected to the crown chakra, representing a spiritual antenna and a physical manifestation of a person's connection to higher consciousness. In many cultures, hair is considered a channel for spiritual energy, with practices like a haircut being used to release old energies and hair care routines being used to return to spiritual and mental alignment. A healthy and well cared for head of hair is seen as a reflection of overall well-being, including mental and spiritual health. End quote. So, all those trips to the salon or the barber or, really just taking that time to bask your hair in a hair mask, it's worth it and it means a lot. This concludes this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab Podcast. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay beautiful and forever fabulous, inside and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD. Live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.